My name is Sabrina Nolan. I'm 34. On my birthday, I sent a text to my family group chat. Just a simple message saying I was feeling sad that no one had reached out. My mom's reply came 3 hours later. We need space from you. Please don't reach out anymore. My sister liked the message. Thumbs up. That was it. So, I blocked them both. And then I did something else. I cut off every single dollar they'd been living on for the past 7 years. See, my family had been collecting monthly checks from a trust fund my grandfather left behind. They treated that money like it fell from the sky. They never once asked who approved it. They never once said thank you because they never knew or never cared that every penny required my signature. The morning after I shut it down, I woke up to 99 missed calls. But by then, it was already too late. Before I get into what happened, please take a moment to hit like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy this story, and drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is right now. Now, let me take you back to March 15th. The morning everything changed. March 15th started like any other Tuesday. Alarm at 6:15. Coffee in the kitchen. The photo of my grandfather on the wall above the stove, smiling in his flannel shirt, the way he always did. I drove to work at the property management office, the same small firm I'd been running since Grandpa Harold passed 7 years ago. 4 rental houses, 2 duplexes, 1 commercial lot. Nothing glamorous, enough to keep the trust funded and the family comfortable. My phone sat face up on the desk all morning. I kept glancing at it between lease reviews and maintenance calls. No texts, no voicemails, no happy birthday from anyone with the last name Nolan. Around noon, my friend Claire called. Happy birthday, Bina. 34 looks good on you. I laughed, but it came out thin. Claire was the only one who remembered. She always was. By evening, I'd stopped pretending it didn't sting. I sat in my truck in the driveway for 10 minutes before going inside. The house was quiet. The kitchen was dark. I heated up leftover soup and ate it standing at the counter. At 8:40, I picked up my phone and typed into the family group chat, the one with Mom and Megan and me. The one that had been silent since Megan posted a photo of her engagement ring 3 days earlier, and Mom flooded it with heart emojis. I typed, "Hey, I know everyone's busy, but it's my birthday today, and I'm feeling a little down that no one reached out." I hit send. The message went through. 2 blue check marks appeared almost immediately. Both of them had read it. Then nothing, not a word. I watched the screen until it went dark. At 10:14 that night, my phone finally buzzed. I grabbed it off the nightstand so fast I nearly knocked over my water glass. Mom's name lit up the screen. I opened the message. "Sabrina, we've been meaning to tell you this. We need space from you. Please don't reach out anymore." I read it once, then again, then a third time, slower, like the words might rearrange themselves into something that made sense. Underneath her message, a small notification. Megan liked this message. A tiny thumbs up icon right below the sentence that told me to disappear. I sat on the edge of my bed, phone in both hands. I didn't cry. I didn't throw anything. I just felt this strange numbness, like someone had pulled a plug somewhere inside my chest and everything drained out at once. I scrolled up through the group chat. 3 days ago, Megan had posted a photo of her new engagement ring, princess cut, the one Derek spent 4 months researching. Mom had responded within minutes. "My baby girl, I'm so happy I could cry." Then a string of hearts. Then Megan's reply. "Thanks, Mama. Love you so much." 67 messages in that thread about Megan's ring, plans for the engagement party, venue ideas, color schemes, guest lists, and then my message sitting at the bottom like a pebble dropped into a well. "It's my birthday today," followed by my mother telling me to go away. I kept staring at that thumbs up. Megan didn't even bother typing a response. She just pressed a button, one tap to endorse my eraser. I set the phone face down on the nightstand and lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, listening to nothing. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. I drifted in and out of something shallow, waking every hour with the same weight pressing on my ribs. By 5 a.m., I gave up and went to the kitchen. The photo of Grandpa Harold was the first thing I saw. Him standing in front of the Riverside Grill the day he signed the lease on his first rental property. 31 years old in that picture, younger than me now. He was the one who taught me how to read a lease agreement, how to balance a trust ledger, how to shake a contractor's hand and look them in the eye. And when he got sick, pancreatic stage 4, the kind that doesn't negotiate, he sat me down at the same kitchen table and said, "I'm putting you in charge, Brea. Take care of them, But take care of yourself first. 7 years. I'd honored the first half of that sentence every single month. $4,500 to Mom, $3,200 to Megan. Mortgage payments, car notes, insurance premiums, spending money, all approved by me, all signed by me every month, like clockwork. The second half, take care of yourself first. I'd buried under a pile of hope that one day they'd see what I was doing. That one day they'd turn around and say thank you. My phone rang at 6. Claire. She could hear it in my voice before I said a word. I told her what happened. The message, the thumbs up, the silence. Claire was quiet for a long time. Then she said, Brina, you've been funding their lives. They just told you to disappear. Do you hear how insane that is? I did hear it. For the first time in 7 years, I heard it clearly. I hung up, opened my laptop, and pulled up the trust management portal. The first thing I did was block them. Both numbers, no dramatic goodbye message, no explanation. I just opened my contacts, tapped the names, and pressed block. It took 4 seconds total. The second thing took a little longer. I called Ray Whitfield at 8 sharp. Ray was my grandfather's oldest friend, an estate attorney who'd helped draft the trust 20 years ago. He'd been my advisor ever since Grandpa passed. Ray, I have a question. If I pause all discretionary distributions from the trust, am I within my rights? He didn't hesitate. 100%. The trust document gives you sole discretion over those payments. That's the whole point of a discretionary trust, Sabrina. You're not obligated to distribute a single dollar beyond what the document mandates. And the document mandates nothing for discretionary beneficiaries. Your grandfather structured it that way on purpose. The distributions your mother and sister receive are entirely at your approval. I logged into the trust management portal. 2 recurring payments stared back at me. $4,500 to Linda Nolan, $3,200 to Megan Nolan. Both set to process on the 1st of every month. Both had been running uninterrupted for 84 consecutive months. I clicked suspend on the first one. A confirmation box appeared. I clicked yes. Then the second one. Same box. Same click. $7,700 a month. Gone. Just like that. The money was still in the trust, still technically accessible to the family under the right conditions, but nobody could touch it without my signature. And I wasn't signing anything. I closed the laptop and poured another cup of coffee. My hands weren't shaking. My chest didn't hurt anymore. For the first time in years, the kitchen felt quiet in a good way. 48 hours passed. I went to work. I filed paperwork. I ate lunch alone at my desk and drove home in silence. My phone didn't ring because the only people trying to reach me were blocked. I found out later through Ray how it unfolded on their end. Linda noticed first. The first of the month came and went and her checking account didn't get its usual deposit. She called the bank. The bank told her the incoming transfer from the Nolan Family Trust had been suspended. She asked them to reverse it, push it through, do something. They told her they couldn't. The account required trustee authorization for every distribution. So, she called RY. Where's my money, RY? The trust payment didn't come through. RY kept it professional. He had to. Attorney-client privilege meant he couldn't disclose my decisions, but he could state facts. All discretionary distributions require the trust's written approval, Linda. That's always been the case. But it's always been automatic. It was never automatic. Someone approved it every single month. Silence on the line. What do you mean someone approved it? It just comes in. Linda, I'm not at liberty to discuss the trust's decisions, but I can tell you that the trust document has always required authorization for every disbursement, every single one for the past 7 years. That was the moment it landed. 7 years of monthly deposits, 7 years of mortgage payments and car notes and shopping sprees and spa weekends, all of it flowing from an account that someone had to unlock by hand, month after month. And that someone was the daughter she'd just told to disappear. Here's the thing about cutting someone off. It's not just about the money. It's about what the money was holding together. I knew what would happen if I kept the trust frozen. Mom's mortgage, $2,100 a month, had been covered by the trust since Grandpa died. Without it, she had maybe 6 weeks of savings before the bank started calling. Megan's apartment, her car payment, her credit card minimums, all subsidized. Without the trust, she'd be underwater by the end of April. And Megan's engagement party, booked 3 months ago at the Riverside Grill under the trust account, was 3 weeks out. The venue expected a final payment of $6,200. Nobody had put a personal card down. Nobody had a backup plan because nobody ever imagined the money would stop. I sat with that for a while. The weight of it. I'm not going to pretend I didn't feel it. These were my people, my mother, my sister, however broken things were between us. I'd spent 7 years trying to hold this family together with the only tool I had. And part of me, the part that still remembered being 12 years old and wanting Mom to say she was proud of me, that part whispered, just turn it back on. Just let it go. They didn't mean it, but they did mean it. We've been meaning to tell you this. Those were her exact words. This wasn't a bad night or a burst of anger. They'd planned it. They discussed it without me. And then they'd waited until my birthday to deliver the message. Claire said it best when I called her that evening. You're not choosing between money and family. They already made the choice when they told you to disappear. I let that sentence sit in the silence for a long time. On the 4th day, I unblocked them just long enough to check. 99 missed calls. I stopped counting after that because the notification just said 99 plus and wouldn't go any higher. Linda, Megan, Derek, even Aunt Patty, Mom's younger sister, who I hadn't spoken to since Thanksgiving. I opened the voicemail folder. Linda's messages came in waves, each one a different version of the same woman. The first few were confused. Sabrina, call me back. Something's wrong with the bank. Then concerned. Honey, I think there's been a mistake with Daddy's trust. Then the mask slipped. I didn't mean what I said. Okay. I was having a bad week. Can we just talk? And then by message number 11. You can't do this to your own mother, Sabrina. This is my money. Your grandfather left it for this family, not just for you. Megan's messages were shorter, more direct. Sabrina, this isn't funny. My engagement party is in 3 weeks. I need the venue deposit cleared. Then 2 hours later, seriously, call me back. This is about my future. I scrolled through every text, every voicemail, every missed call timestamp. Not one of them said happy birthday. Not one of them apologized for the message. Not one of them asked how I was doing or acknowledged that they told me to stop existing in their lives 4 days ago. Every single message was about money. Where's the deposit? When's the payment? Fix the trust. Call the bank. This is about Megan's party. This is about Mom's mortgage. I was the emergency contact for their wallets. Nothing more. I blocked them again, set my phone on the counter, and went to bed at 8:30. Slept better than I had all week. 99 missed calls, and not a single one started with, I'm sorry. I want to ask you something. If someone in your family told you to stop reaching out, then blew up your phone when the money stopped, would you answer? Drop a 1 in the comments if you'd pick up. Drop a 2 if you'd let it ring. I'll tell you what I did right after this. 6 days after the birthday text, my doorbell rang at 7 in the morning. I was still in pajamas, coffee in hand. I looked through the peephole and saw my mother standing on the porch in a blouse. I recognized the one she'd bought last fall with trust money. Her arms were crossed, her jaw was set. I opened the door but didn't step aside. I stood in the frame with my mug and waited. Sabrina, we need to talk about this. Okay, you can't just freeze me out. You told me not to reach out. I didn't mean like this. What did you mean then? She sputtered for a second. Then she tried a different angle. The one she always tried. The guilt. I'm your mother. I raised you alone after your father left. I sacrificed everything for you and your sister. I know, Mom. Then act like it. Turn the money back on. I'm not punishing you. I'm exercising my responsibility as trustee. Her eyes went wide, then narrow. Your grandfather would be ashamed of you. I took a sip of coffee, let it land. Then Grandpa told me to take care of myself first. I'm finally listening. She stared at me like I'd spoken in a foreign language. Then she turned and walked down the steps, heels clicking hard on the concrete. At the end of the driveway, she stopped and looked back, not at me, but past me toward old Mr. Garrett across the street, who was watering his lawn and definitely watching. My own daughter, she said loud enough for him to hear, punishing her own mother. She got in her car and drove away. I closed the door and finished my coffee. I should tell you this wasn't the first time I'd been invisible in my own family. It was just the first time they put it in writing. 2 Christmases ago, Mom hosted dinner at her house, the house the trust paid the mortgage on. She'd redecorated the dining room with money I'd approved in November. New curtains, a centerpiece arrangement, Candles that smelled like cinnamon and vanilla. Megan and Derek arrived in matching sweaters. Mom hugged them at the door like she was greeting royalty. Derek got a monogrammed leather wallet. Megan got a gold bracelet. Not cheap either. I'd seen the charge on the trust statement. $340 at a jewelry boutique downtown. My gift was on the table next to the cranberry sauce. A card generic, the kind you grab at the pharmacy checkout. Happy holidays in silver script. Pre-printed message inside. No personal note. No signature. I held it up. Did you guys forget to write something in here? Megan rolled her eyes. Oh, come on. Don't be so sensitive. It's Christmas, not your therapy session. Mom said nothing. She just passed the mashed potatoes and changed the subject to Megan's new job, the part-time online sales gig that covered maybe a quarter of her expenses, while the trust handled the rest. I stayed through dessert. I helped wash the dishes. I hugged Mom at the door like I always did, and she patted my back the way you'd pat a dog you weren't particularly fond of. I drove home to my one-bedroom apartment that night, set up the table for one, ate leftover pie in the kitchen with the lights off, and the next morning, I logged into the trust portal and approved January's distributions like I always did. A year before the birthday incident, Megan called me on a Wednesday afternoon. No hello, no small talk. I need $12,000 from the trust, security deposit in first month on a new apartment. That's a big draw. Me, what happened to your current place? It's too small. Derek's basically living with me now, and we need more room. The new one's downtown. Hardwood floors, balcony. It's perfect. I approved it. I always approved it. $12,000 processed within 48 hours. Megan didn't say thank you. What she said was, finally, I've been waiting 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Because I'd asked her to send me the lease agreement first, which is standard procedure for a trust disbursement. She acted like I'd asked her to donate a kidney. A month later, I found out through a friend of Claire's that Megan was still holding the old apartment, the one the trust paid rent on, and letting her college roommate live there, charging her $800 a month in cash, pocketing it. When I brought it up carefully over the phone, Megan's response came fast and sharp. It's not like it's your money, Sabrina. It's Grandpa's. I let that sentence pass. Swallowed it whole the way I'd swallowed every other insult and oversight and dismissal for years. Because I thought keeping the peace was the same as keeping the family. It wasn't. Grandpa's money. That's what she called it. Not the trust, not our inheritance. Grandpa's money, as if the old man were still alive somewhere, writing checks from heaven and I was just the mailbox. I remember hanging up the phone and sitting very still for a long time staring at the wall. I should have drawn the line that day. I didn't. 10 days after the birthday, a Monday morning, I was at my desk reviewing a plumbing estimate when the front door of the office swung open. Megan walked in first. Derek trailed behind her, hands in his pockets, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. We need to talk, Megan said. My office hours are by appointment. Don't do that. Don't act like I'm a client. I set the estimate down. What do you need, Megan? The venue wants $8,000 by Friday or they cancel the party. You need to release the funds. The trust distributions are paused. If you'd like to discuss reinstatement, you can contact Ray Whitfield. Her face reened. I don't want to talk to RY. I want to talk to you. You're talking to me and I'm telling you the process. Derek stepped forward. His voice was softer, rehearsed, the tone of a man who'd been coached in the car. Come on, Sabrina. This is Megan's engagement. Can't we just move past the family stuff and handle this? I didn't start the family stuff, Derek. And I'm not the one who created this situation. Megan grabbed Derek's arm. She's not going to help. I told you. She turned back to me, eyes glassy. You're going to regret this. Maybe. She yanked the door open. It banged against the wall. Derek muttered something. Sorry. Or let's go. And followed her out. Through the window, I watched them argue in the parking lot. Megan's hands were flying. Derek stood with his shoulders hunched, nodding, absorbing it. My coworker, Denise, looked over from her desk. Everything okay? Family stuff. I said. Ah. She turned back to her screen. In a small town, that answer covers a lot. That afternoon, I drove to Ray Whitfield's office. It sat on Main Street between a hardware store and a barber shop, a small town law practice with wood paneling and framed photos of trout. Ray had the trust document spread across his desk when I walked in. He'd already flagged the relevant section with a yellow tab. Sit down. Read this. Saturday. The clause was on page 14, paragraph 9. I'd seen it before, but I'd never really absorbed it. Not until now. The successor trustee may at their sole discretion modify, reduce, or suspend any discretionary distribution to any beneficiary for any reason the trustee deems appropriate without prior notice or court approval. I looked up. He wrote that in from the beginning. Ray leaned back. Your grandfather wasn't naive, Sabrina. He watched how your mother handled money for 30 years. He loved her, but he didn't trust her with it. That's why he picked you. If they try to challenge this in court, they'd lose. Discretionary means discretionary. I've seen cases where beneficiaries tried to force distributions. It almost never works. No judge is going to override a trustee who's acting within clearly documented authority. He pulled his glasses off and rubbed his eyes. You know, Harold and I talked about this exact scenario. Not the birthday part, but the possibility that your mother would push you too far and you'd have to make a call. He told me once, and I remember it clearly. Ray, when Sabrina finally stands up, make sure she knows she's on solid ground. I didn't say anything for a minute. I just looked at that clause. Page 14, paragraph 9. Solid ground. I folded the document and slid it into my bag. That evening, I was clearing out old emails, a mindless task I'd been putting off for months when I found it. 5 years old, sent from Mom's personal account. Subject line re-trust question. I'd asked her back then whether she wanted me to send a summary of the trust distributions to the family so everyone understood how the money worked. Her response was 4 lines long. I read them 3 times. Sabrina, please don't tell anyone you managed the trust. People will think I can't take care of my own family. Just keep the money coming and let me handle the rest. Just keep the money coming and let me handle the rest. I sat at my kitchen table and stared at those words. 5 years ago, I'd read this email and thought my mother was embarrassed, maybe a little proud in her own way about needing help. I'd honored her request because I thought I was being kind. I thought I was protecting her dignity. Now I understood what it really was. She didn't want people to know I existed in the financial picture because she wanted the credit. She wanted the neighbors to think she was the self-sufficient widow who'd pulled it together after Dad left. She wanted the church ladies to admire her resilience. She wanted Megan to believe the money was simply what Grandpa left us, a birthright, not a gift that someone approved every 30 days. She'd asked me to be invisible, and I'd agreed. I forwarded the email to my own backup account and saved a screenshot to a folder on my desktop. I didn't know yet how it would matter. I just knew that words like those don't stay buried forever. Some things have a way of surfacing at exactly the wrong time for the person who wrote them. The following Saturday, Claire showed up at my door with a sheet cake from the bakery on 5th, 2 bottles of cheap wine, and 3 friends I hadn't seen since college. We're celebrating, she announced. Late birthday, non-negotiable. We ate cake on the living room floor because my dining table only seats 2. Claire's friend Josie brought candles shaped like the number 34. Heather brought a card that everyone had signed with actual messages written inside. Funny ones, kind ones, one that made me tear up. You deserve people who remember. Claire's gift was in a brown paper bag. I opened it and went still. It was a framed photograph. The one I thought I'd lost years ago. Grandpa Harold and me, standing in front of the Riverside Grill when I was 9. He's got his hand on my shoulder. I'm holding a fishing rod that's taller than I am. Grinning like I just caught the whole ocean. Where did you find this? Your grandpa gave me a copy years ago. He told me to hang on to it. Said you'd need it someday. I cried. For the first time since the birthday text, I actually cried. Not from sadness, but from something warmer. The feeling of being known by people who chose to know me. Claire raised her glass. This is what family looks like, Bina. People who show up. We toasted to that. 5 women on the floor of a 1-bedroom apartment eating grocery store cake, laughing about nothing important. That same night, Megan posted an Instagram story, a mirror selfie in a white dress, trying on outfits for her engagement party. The caption read, 3 weeks to go. So blessed. She didn't know the venue hadn't been paid. Or maybe she did, and the performance mattered more. I first noticed it at the grocery store. Mrs. Patterson at the deli counter, the one who always asked about my day, looked at me sideways and didn't say a word, just bagged my turkey slices and slid them across without eye contact. Then at the post office, 2 women from Mom's church circle stopped talking when I walked in. One of them, Betty Marsh, gave me a tight smile that wasn't a smile at all. By Sunday, I understood. Mom had been busy. The story she'd planted around town went like this. Sabrina was holding the family inheritance hostage. Sabrina was bitter and controlling. Sabrina was punishing her own mother over a petty misunderstanding. At church, Reverend Grant pulled me aside after the service. He looked uncomfortable, the way people do when they've been recruited into someone else's conflict. Sabrina, your mother came to see me this week. She's very upset. She says you're withholding family money. Reverend, with all respect, the trust document names me as sole trustee. I'm fulfilling my legal obligations. That's all I can say. He nodded slowly. I understand. I just thought you should know people are talking. They usually are. I walked to my truck and I could feel eyes following me across the parking lot. In a small town, reputation is currency. And my mother had just drained my account. She'd done it carefully, too. Never mentioning the birthday text. Never explaining that she'd told me to stop reaching out. In her version, I was the aggressor. She was the victim. The same story she'd been telling for years, just louder now, because she needed it to work. I drove home and didn't say a word about it to anyone. Not yet. Timing matters. The Facebook post went up on a Wednesday evening. Megan didn't use my name. She didn't need to. Everyone in town knew. Some people would rather watch their family suffer than let go of control. My engagement party might not happen because one person decided her ego matters more than her sister's happiness. I've tried reaching out. I've tried being the bigger person. Nothing works. Sometimes the people who are supposed to love you are the ones who hurt you most. Within an hour, 43 likes, 21 comments, 6 shares. So sorry, babe. You deserve the world. That's horrible. Family should lift each other up. Praying for you and Derek. Some people really do change when money gets involved. Claire screenshot the whole thing and sent it to me. I read every comment. Then I closed my phone and made dinner. I called RY that night. They're making public accusations. Does this change anything legally? Not for the trust. Your authority is documented and ironclad. But socially, it could get uncomfortable. He paused. That said, Sabrina, if you ever need it, that post establishes a pattern. Public defamation by a beneficiary against her own trustee. It's not nothing. I'm not suing my sister Ray. I'm not suggesting you do. I'm saying save everything. I saved everything. Screenshots of the post, screenshots of the comments, the timestamps, the shares, the likes. I put them all in the same folder as Mom's email. The one that said, just keep the money coming. A digital filing cabinet of every time my family told me I didn't matter. Organized by date. It wasn't evidence for a courtroom. It was evidence for myself. Proof that I wasn't imagining things. Proof that I wasn't the monster they were building in public. The call came from a number I didn't recognize. I picked up out of habit. Property management means unknown numbers could be tenants with emergencies. Sabrina, it's Derek. I almost hung up, but something in his voice, quieter than usual, almost careful, made me stay. I'm calling from a friend's phone. Look, I know you're upset. I get it. They hurt you. But can we get past this for the engagement? Just release the party funds and we can deal with the rest later. Derek, getting past this means pretending my mother didn't tell me to disappear. She didn't mean it like she typed it. Megan endorsed it, those aren't accidents. He exhaled hard. I could hear the frustration building, the politeness thinning. Megan's been crying every night, Sabrina. Every night. If this party falls through, everyone's going to blame you. You understand that? The whole town's already talking. Everyone already blames me, Derek. That's not new. So, you're just going to let it all burn? I didn't light the fire. Long silence. Then his voice dropped. Not softer, but harder. Colder. Fine. We're going to find a way to get that money. With or without you. The line went dead. I sat in the kitchen and played those last words back. With or without you. It wasn't a plea anymore. It was a threat. Vague, the kind people make when they don't actually have a plan, but want you to worry that they do. I opened my phone and wrote a note to myself. Derek called from unknown number, threatened to access trust funds without my authorization. March 27th. Then I locked my screen and went back to my evening. Whatever they were planning, the trust was airtight. Ray had made sure of that. They tried everything over the next week. Every angle, every door, every window. Linda called the trust company directly. First Regional Bank, which served as custodian of the trust assets. She spoke to 3 different people in the wealth management department. Each one told her the same thing. Only the named trustee can authorize distributions. Mrs. Nolan, but I'm a beneficiary. It's my father's trust. Yes, but beneficiary status doesn't grant disbursement authority. You'd need the trust's written approval. Well, what if the trustee is what if she's not acting right? What if she's doing this out of spite? If you believe the trustee is breaching their fiduciary duty, you're welcome to consult an attorney and petition the court, but from what we can see, all actions taken are within the trust's documented provisions. Dead end. Megan tried a different route. She went straight to the Riverside Grill and asked the owner, Mr. Hargrove, to let the engagement party proceed on credit. A promise to pay within 30 days after the event. Mr. Hargrove, a careful man who'd been running that restaurant for 20 years, said no. The booking had been made under the trust account. The final payment of $6,200 was overdue. No payment, no event. Can't I just put it on a card? Do you have a card with a $6,000 limit? She didn't. Derek looked into personal loans. 2 banks, 1 credit union. His credit was decent, but not strong enough for an unsecured loan on short notice. The engagement party was 12 days away. Meanwhile, I went to work. I managed the rental properties. I returned tenant calls and approved maintenance requests. I lived my life. The difference was for the first time in 7 years, I wasn't living it for them. Megan came to my house at 9 o'clock on a Friday night. I could smell wine on her before she opened her mouth. She didn't knock. She pounded. When I opened the door, her mascara was smeared and her voice was too loud for the quiet street. You ruined my life. I've been planning this party for a year. A whole year. Sabrina, keep your voice down, Megan. No, I want the whole neighborhood to hear what kind of sister you are. I stayed in the doorway. Steady. Megan, you liked the message that told me to disappear. You didn't plan for me to be part of your life, so I'm not. That was Mom's idea. I just went along with it. The words hung in the night air. She didn't realize what she'd just said. Or maybe the wine kept her from caring. So, you planned it, I said. Thank you for confirming that. Her face crumbled. The anger dissolved into something messier. She started crying. Not quiet tears, but the ugly gasping kind. The kind that comes from running out of options. Just release the money for the party. Please, you can go back to being mad at us after. I just need this one thing. One thing. After 7 years of everything. After 84 months of silent signatures and thankless deposits and Christmas cards without names. One more thing. I'm not mad, Megan. I'm done. I stepped back and closed the door, locked it, stood there in the hallway, listening to her cry on the porch until Derek's headlights pulled into the driveway and she stumbled to the car. Through the window, I watched them drive away. The street went quiet again. Mom's idea. I just went along with it. Planned, coordinated, intentional. That was Mom's idea. I just went along with it. She said it like it was a defense, like following someone's cruelty makes it less cruel. I need to know if your own sibling admitted they planned to push you out. Could you ever trust them again? Comment never or maybe. And stick around because what happened at that engagement party? Nobody in that room saw it coming. The engagement party was set for Saturday, April 5th, Riverside Grill, 7 o'clock, 80 guests. I wasn't invited. I found out the details from Claire, who'd received her invitation 3 months ago, back when Megan still thought of her as a mutual friend and not an extension of the sister she'd discarded. You sure you don't want me to skip it? Claire asked. No, go. I want someone I trust in that room. Here's what I knew that Megan didn't. The final payment had never gone through. I'd informed Mr. Hargrove's office 3 weeks earlier that the Nolan Family Trust would not be authorizing the charge. His bookkeeper confirmed receipt of my letter. The $6,200 balance was outstanding. Megan and Linda apparently assumed the venue would just let it slide. That the Nolan name, or whatever version of it Mom had been polishing around town, would carry enough weight to skip the formalities. They showed up that evening as if nothing was wrong. From what Claire described later, the restaurant looked beautiful. White tablecloths, mason jar centerpieces with wild flowers. Grandpa Harold's favorite, a 3-tier cake in the corner, string lights across the patio. Linda wore a new dress, navy blue, fitted, the kind she'd normally charge to the trust account. This time, Claire told me she'd put it on a department store credit card. Keeping up appearances costs money, even when the money's gone. Meghan was radiant, at least on the surface. White cocktail dress, hair blown out, smiling for every photo. Eric stood beside her in a sport coat, shaking hands, playing the part. 80 people filled that room, expecting a celebration. Nobody expected what came next, least of all the woman who'd told me to disappear. The first hour went smoothly. Cocktails circulated. Guests mingled on the patio overlooking the river. Derek's insurance colleagues clustered near the bar. Mom's church friends occupied a round table by the window. Meghan floated between groups, laughing, posing, showing off the ring. At 7:45, Linda stood up and clinked her glass. The room settled. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight to celebrate my beautiful daughter and her wonderful fiancé. She smiled, that practiced, camera-ready smile she'd perfected over decades. This family has been through so much, but we always stick together. That's what Nolans do. A few people clapped. Someone raised a glass. Claire, sitting at a corner table near the kitchen, told me later she almost choked on her water. We always stick together. The woman who texted her eldest daughter to stop reaching out, standing in a room full of people declaring family unity with the confidence of someone who believed her own story. Around 8:15, one of Derek's co-workers leaned over to Claire. "Hey, where's Sabrina? Isn't she Meghan's sister?" Claire kept it simple. "She couldn't make it." "That's too bad. I heard she manages the family's properties or something." Meghan mentioned it once. Claire just smiled and sipped her wine. At 8:22, Claire remembered the time because she glanced at her phone. Mr. Hargrove appeared from the kitchen. He was a tall man, silver-haired, the kind of restaurant owner who wore a tie every day and still bussed tables when the place got busy. He walked directly to Linda's table, leaned down, spoke quietly. "Mrs. Nolan, I'm sorry to interrupt. May I have a word with you in private?" Linda's smile didn't waver. She touched her napkin and stood. They stepped through the kitchen doors. Linda and Mr. Hargrove, visible through the round window to anyone paying attention. Claire was paying attention. She couldn't hear the words, but she could see the body language. Mr. Hargrove held a clipboard. Linda's arms crossed, then uncrossed, then crossed again. The conversation lasted maybe 3 minutes before Linda's posture changed completely. Her shoulders dropped, her head tilted forward. Mr. Hargrove gestured at the clipboard, pointing, explaining. "Later, through RY, I got the details of what was said. Mrs. Nolan, the final payment of $6,200 hasn't cleared. The account on file, the Nolan Family Trust, was not authorized for this charge. There must be a mistake. That account has always worked. We contacted the trustee directly 3 weeks ago. We were informed that the trust would not be covering this event." "Who told you that?" "The trustee. Miss Sabrina Nolan." Linda's face went white. "She has no right to." She's the name trustee. She has every right. I'm sorry, but without payment, I can't continue the service. We've already extended a significant courtesy by allowing the event to begin." Linda started to argue. Something about the family being longtime customers, about Harold Nolan eating at this restaurant every Friday for 20 years. Mr. Hargrove listened politely. He didn't budge. That's when Meghan appeared in the kitchen doorway. She'd noticed her mother missing and come looking. She caught the tail end. The trust would not be covering this event, and the volume control she'd been holding all night finally broke. "What do you mean the money didn't go through?" Through the kitchen window, 80 heads turned at once. The kitchen doors swung open. Meghan came through first, face flushed, chest heaving. Linda followed, looking like she'd aged 10 years in 4 minutes. The room was silent. Forks were down. Conversations frozen mid-sentence. Someone near the back, Derek's college friend, I think, spoke first. "Is everything okay?" Meghan opened her mouth, then closed it. She looked at her mother. Linda straightened her spine, summoned what was left of her composure, and said, "It's a banking error. We'll sort it out." But Meghan was past the point of performance. "It's not a banking error, Mom. Sabrina froze the trust. She cut us off." The silence that followed was the kind you feel in your chest. Not the polite kind. The kind where 80 people are recalculating everything they thought they knew. Mrs. Dalton, a neighbor who'd known the family for decades, was the first to break it. She set down her wine glass very deliberately. "Wait, Sabrina manages the trust. I thought you said the money was from your father's estate, Linda. You told me you handled the finances yourself." Linda didn't answer. She stood there frozen with the entire room watching. Aunt Patty, sitting 3 tables away, rose halfway out of her chair. Linda, is that true? You told me Dad left you in charge. It's complicated. Mrs. Dalton shook her head slowly. It doesn't sound complicated. It sounds like your daughter has been paying for everything, and you told the whole town it was you. The words landed like a stone in still water. Ripples everywhere. 80 pairs of eyes shifting between Linda and the empty chair at the family table. The chair that would have been mine. 7 years of fiction, undone in 30 seconds. Linda sat down, not at a table, just in the nearest chair, a spare by the wall, the one Mr. Hargrove usually kept for his hostess. She put her face in her hands. When she looked up, she wasn't apologetic. She was cornered. She's punishing me, Linda said loud enough for the room. My own daughter is punishing me because I asked for a little space. That's all I did. I asked for space and she took everything. A few people shifted uncomfortably. Someone at the bar turned away. Megan, still standing, pivoted toward Claire, her eyes narrowed. Did you tell her about tonight? Did you help her set this up? Claire didn't flinch. Sabrina didn't set anything up, Megan. She just stopped paying. You planned this party without checking if the money was there. That's on you. You don't know anything about. I know your sister's been signing checks for this family since she was 27 years old. And I know the thank you she got was a text telling her to go away. Megan stared. A few people at the nearby tables nodded without meaning to. Derek appeared at Megan's elbow. We should go. No. Everyone needs to know my sister is a monster. But the room wasn't with her anymore. You could see it in the turned heads, the lowered eyes, the quiet gathering of purses and jackets. Mr. Hargrove's staff began clearing the buffet trays, half the food untouched. One by one, guests started leaving, handshakes with Derek, quick hugs, whispered good lucks. That meant something different than they had an hour ago. Linda sat in her chair by the wall, watching the room empty. Someone call Sabrina, she said. Tell her to fix this. Nobody picked up a phone. Claire called me at 9:30 that night. I was on my couch with a book and a cup of tea. Chamomile, the kind Grandpa always drank. She told me everything. The kitchen, the announcement, Mrs. Dalton's question, Aunt Patty's face, Megan's outburst, the slow, awful emptying of the room. I listened without interrupting. I didn't want it to happen that way, I said when she finished. I know, but it happened because they built a house of cards with your money and your silence. You took back the silence. The house fell on its own. That night, I couldn't sleep again. But this time, it wasn't from grief. It was from clarity. The kind that keeps you awake because your mind is finally working instead of hiding. Monday morning, I was at Ray's office by 8. I want to restructure the distributions, I told him. Not eliminate them. Restructure. He nodded. What are you thinking? $1,200 a month to each beneficiary, directly tied to documented expenses. Rent, utilities, groceries, receipts required for every disbursement. No lump sums, no discretionary spending, no more blank checks. Ray wrote it up that afternoon. Certified letters went out to both Linda and Megan via registered mail. I also did one more thing. I opened my email, found the message Linda had sent me 5 years ago. Just keep the money coming and let me handle the rest. And forwarded it to her current address. I added one line underneath. You handled it. Here's the result. I didn't CC anyone. I didn't post it publicly. This wasn't about humiliation. It was about making sure she understood in writing that I remembered every word and that every word had weight. The certified letters arrived on a Tuesday. I know because Ray's office got the return receipts. Linda signed for hers at 9:07 a.m. Megan signed at 11:15. Linda called Ray within the hour. Her voice, he told me later, oscillated between fury and panic. You can't do this. I'll sue. I'll take her to court. You're welcome to consult your own attorney, Linda. But I'll tell you what any estate lawyer in this state will say. A trustee acting within documented discretion is nearly impossible to challenge. The trust gives Sabrina full authority over distribution amounts, schedules, and conditions. She's not required to give you a dime. A dime? She dropped me to $1,200 a month. I can't live on that. Then I'd suggest adjusting your budget or finding supplemental income. The line went quiet. Then Harold never would have wanted this. Harold wrote the document that allows it. He chose Sabrina specifically because he trusted her judgment. She hung up. Meghan's reaction came through Derek, who texted Ray's office politely to his credit, asking if the decision could be reconsidered. RY responded with a one-paragraph letter reiterating the trust's authority and suggesting Meghan consult independent counsel if she wished to explore her options. Within 2 weeks, the financial reality set in. Meghan couldn't cover her downtown apartment at $1,800 a month on $1,200 from the trust and her part-time income. She moved back in with Linda. Derek began asking questions, the kind he probably should have asked before proposing. How much of Meghan's lifestyle was real? How much was subsidized? When she said we can afford it, who was we? He postponed the wedding. Until we figure out our finances, he told friends. Meghan's version was shorter. This is all because of Sabrina. 2 weeks after the engagement party, a small article appeared in the Caldwell County Courier, our local paper, the kind that still prints on Thursdays and runs stories about zoning board meetings. The headline read, "Nolan Family Trust establishes annual scholarship." The trust document had always included a provision for charitable giving. Grandpa Harold insisted on it. I'd never activated it. There had always been more pressing demands. Mom's mortgage, Meghan's rent, the endless drip of discretionary spending that left little room for anything else. With the distributions restructured, there was room now, $25,000 a year, roughly the same amount Linda had been spending annually on spa treatments, handbags, and dinners she charged to the trust without receipts. I named it the Harold Nolan Community Scholarship, open to any graduating senior in Caldwell County, pursuing a trade certification or community college degree. The kind of kid Grandpa Harold had been. Hardworking, practical, first in his family to think bigger. The announcement included my name as trustee and scholarship administrator. First time my name had appeared publicly in connection with the trust. First time the town saw Sabrina Nolan not as Linda's difficult daughter, but as the woman managing her grandfather's legacy. The following Sunday, Mrs. Dalton stopped me in the church parking lot. She put her hand on my arm and said simply, "Your grandfather would be so proud of you, Sabrina." The same words Linda had weaponized on my porch. Your grandfather would be ashamed. Now returned inverted from the mouth of someone who had no reason to lie. I thanked her and got in my truck and sat there for a minute before starting the engine. Not because I was sad, because sometimes being seen, truly seen, takes a moment to absorb. Over the next 2 months, I watched mostly from a distance as reality settled over my mother like weather she couldn't outrun. The SUV was the first to go. The white Chevy Tahoe she'd leased 2 years ago with a trust-funded down payment. Without the $4,500 monthly cushion, the payments became impossible. She traded it in for a 10-year-old Honda Civic that got her where she needed to go and nothing more. She found a job, part-time receptionist at Dr. Harmon's dental office on Oak Street. 20 hours a week, $12 an hour. It was the first paid work she'd done in over a decade. And from what I heard through Aunt Patty, the adjustment was hard. She came home exhausted. She complained about her feet, her back, the indignity of answering phones. But she did it. I'll give her that. She showed up. The social landscape shifted more slowly. At church, people were polite but measured. Nobody mentioned the engagement party directly. Small towns have manners about that sort of thing. But the dynamic had changed. Linda's opinion carried less weight now. Her recommendations, her judgments about other people's lives, her carefully curated image of the strong single mother. All of it had a crack running through it. One evening, a letter arrived at my apartment, handwritten Mom's stationery, the lavender kind with her initials embossed at the top. Sabrina, I'm sorry for how things went, but you didn't have to humiliate me in front of everyone. I'm trying. That should count for something. I read it twice, folded it, put it in the kitchen drawer. She apologized for the humiliation, not for the birthday, not for the text, not for 7 years of making me invisible. She was sorry about the audience, not the action. Meghan's situation was harder to watch, even for someone who'd been on the receiving end of her cruelty. The downtown apartment was gone within a month. She moved back into Mom's spare bedroom. The room that used to be mine actually before I left at 18. Her online sales business, which had always been more of a hobby than an income, barely covered her phone bill. Derek started asking the kinds of questions that shake foundations, not angry questions, careful ones, which are worse. When you said we could afford the honeymoon, what did you mean by we? When you told me your family was comfortable, what exactly did that mean? Did you ever actually pay rent with your own money? Meghan deflected. Blamed me mostly. This is all Sabrina's doing. She's controlling and vindictive, and she's trying to ruin my life because she's jealous. Derek listened. And then, according to Aunt Patty, who'd become my quiet conduit to the family weather report, he said something that stopped Megan cold. I didn't know you couldn't afford your own rent, Megan. That's not about Sabrina. That's about honesty. The wedding stayed postponed. Derek didn't break things off. Not formally. But the energy shifted. He started spending more time at his own place. Fewer joint Instagram posts. No more ring photos. Megan deleted the Facebook post about me. The one calling me controlling. The one with 43 likes and 21 comments. But in a small town, screenshots travel faster than apologies. Half of Derek's co-workers had already seen it. His mother had seen it. The narrative Megan had built, the capable young woman planning her dream wedding, turned out to be as unsupported as the trust payments that had propped it up. Aunt Patty called me on a Sunday morning in late May. No preamble. Can I come over? I'll bring muffins. She showed up with blueberry muffins from the bakery and 2 coffees. We sat on the porch steps. The morning was warm and the street was quiet. And for a few minutes, we just ate and didn't talk. Then she said it. I didn't know, Sabrina. I didn't know you'd been carrying all of us. I wasn't carrying you, Aunt Patty. You never took a cent from the trust. I know, but I knew something was off, and I never asked. That's on me. She picked at her muffin. Your mother has always been like this. Did you know she pulled the same thing with me? Years ago, when your grandfather first started doing well, she told people the rental income was a family business she helped manage. I was the one who painted those apartments, Sabrina. Every unit, she never lifted a brush. Why didn't you say anything? Because she's my sister and I stopped fighting with her 20 years ago. Decided it was easier to just let it go and keep my distance. She looked at me sideways. I should have told you sooner. I should have warned you that this is what she does. She uses people and then rewrites the story, so she's the hero. You're telling me now that matters. She nodded, sipped her coffee. Come over for dinner next Saturday, just us. I'm making Grandpa's pot roast recipe, the one with the onion gravy. I smiled. The first real one in weeks. I'd like that. She squeezed my hand once before she left. Firm and brief and real. Leaving a toxic family doesn't mean losing every branch. Sometimes you just have to find the ones that grew in healthier soil. 2 months after the engagement party, my phone rang while I was at Aunt Patty's house. Patty's number on the screen, but when I picked up, it wasn't Patty's voice. Sabrina, it's Mom. I almost hung up. My thumb hovered, but something in her tone, smaller than I'd ever heard it, kept me listening. I got a job, she said. At Dr. Harmon's office. I'm answering phones. It's not much, but I'm paying my own electric bill now. First time in a long time. I'm glad you're working, Mom. That's a good step. Silence, then. Can we have coffee? Just us somewhere neutral. I won't bring Megan. I won't make a scene. I just want to sit across from you and talk. I looked out Patty's kitchen window. The sunset was doing that thing it does in late spring, burning orange through the trees, making everything look gentler than it is. Not yet. Okay. Her voice cracked just a little. When? Maybe someday. When sorry comes without, but you didn't have to. When you can say what you did without explaining why I deserved it. Long pause. I could hear her breathing. That's fair. Okay. Okay. She hung up. I set the phone on Patty's counter and stared at it for a while. Patty came in from the garden, saw my face, and didn't ask. She just put the kettle on. It would have been easy to say yes, to slide back into the old pattern, the forgiving daughter, the quiet provider, the one who smooths things over so everyone else can be comfortable. But comfort isn't the same as healing. And I'd spent enough years learning the difference. 4 months out, summer in full swing. The rental properties were in good shape. I'd repainted 2 units in June and replaced the HVAC in the commercial lot. The trust was healthy. The scholarship had its first 3 applicants. I started taking a financial planning course at the community college on Tuesday nights. 12 students, a retired CPA named Professor Daniels, and a textbook that weighed more than my cat. I liked it. I liked the precision of it. The way numbers don't lie or rearrange themselves to fit a narrative. Saturday dinners became a ritual. Claire and Patty, sometimes Josie or Heather, sometimes just me and whoever showed up. My apartment was small, but the table could squeeze 4 if we moved the bookshelf. Claire brought wine. Patty brought leftovers from the week. We talked about nothing important and everything that mattered. I hung 2 frames on the kitchen wall. The first, Grandpa Harold and 9-year-old me at the Riverside Grill. The second, Claire's photo from my belated birthday. 5 women on the floor, sheet cake, cheap wine, candles shaped like 34. Megan hadn't reached out. Derek and Megan were still technically engaged, but nobody was planning anything. The ring stayed on her finger. The date stayed off the calendar. I thought about her sometimes, usually at night. Usually when it was quiet, I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel righteous. I just felt clear. I wasn't responsible for Megan's pain. The same way I wasn't responsible for Mom's mortgage or Megan's lifestyle or the story they'd written about me in my absence. I was responsible for one thing, living a life I could respect. I'd spent 7 years being a foundation no one acknowledged. Now I was building something of my own. If you're still listening, I want to talk to you directly for a moment. If something in this story felt familiar, if you're the person who always gives but never gets remembered, who funds the party but isn't on the guest list, who keeps the lights on for people who don't notice when you leave the room, I want you to hear this. Setting a boundary is not revenge. It's not cruelty. It's not selfishness. It's the moment you decide that your own dignity has a seat at the table, too. My mother thought space was a lever she could pull to keep me in line. She figured I'd panic, come crawling back, begged to be let in again. She didn't realize that I'd been the one holding the structure together. When I stepped away, the house didn't fall because I knocked it down. It fell because I was the only thing keeping it standing. I don't hate my family. That's important. Hate takes energy I'd rather spend elsewhere. I just love myself enough now to stop paying for people who can't be bothered to remember my birthday. Here's what I've learned. When someone tells you they need space from you, believe them, give them every inch of it, and then pay attention to what happens when they realize what they actually lost. It's never about the money. It was never about the trust or the distributions or the venue deposit. It was about being seen, about mattering, about the difference between being needed and being valued. I was needed for 7 years. Needed for my signature, my silence, my compliance. But I was never valued. Not until I forced them to look at the space I used to fill. Don't wait 7 years. That's my only advice. Don't wait as long as I did. It was a Thursday night in November, 8 months after my birthday, when my phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. I was on the porch, wrapped in a blanket, drinking coffee that had gone lukewarm. The kind of evening where the air smells like dried leaves and wood smoke and the street sounds like it's breathing. I went inside and picked up the phone. Unknown number, a text. Happy birthday, sis. I know it's 8 months late. I'm sorry for all of it, Megan. I read it standing at the counter in the same spot where I'd eaten soup alone on March 15th. The kitchen light was on this time, 2 photos on the wall, a pot of coffee still warm on the machine. I didn't reply. Not right then. But I didn't block the number either. I set the phone down, went back to the porch, and pulled the blanket tighter. The street was quiet. The sky was dark. Somewhere down the road, someone was burning leaves. Maybe someday. But this time, it starts with respect, not a check. That's my story. If it hit close to home, I want to hear yours. Drop a comment below. Have you ever had to choose between keeping the peace and keeping your dignity? What did you pick? And if you want more stories like this about people who finally chose themselves, check out the video in the description. I think you'll see yourself in it. Thank you for listening. It means more than you.